Okay, you want to get down to it then?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get
Oh,
started.
all right. This is going to be kind of informal, and you're going to lead because I got some questions to ask, but I don't know what's going on, and that's why you're here is to give that information.
All
First,
right.
what is your name and spell it, please?
My name is Koerri Washington. Koerri is spelled Koerri Washington, Washington.
Okay. Now, you have been live streaming some of the BLM stuff that's been going on in Kenosha.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Where have you been putting the stuff? Facebook, live stream, YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. So you have a YouTube channel. Then could you give the name on that so I can locate that? Send links over to the History Center.
Yeah. It's just Koerri Elijah, my name. So
Okay.
Koerri, and then Elijah is my middle name, Elijah.
Okay. Now, were you live streaming and such before all of this started, or is this just something you normally always did?
It's something that I've kind of done on and off. It's not like live streaming isn't like a big part of what I do, but whenever I go out to events and things are happening, I tend to do it.
Okay. What would be a big part of what you do then?
So I do a lot of digital content creation. So writing for a website called playlegit.net, as well as I'm the digital content producer there. So I help curate different podcasts and videos and edit different videos and assign different tasks and things like that.
So this is
And
just an oh, go
host
ahead.
and I'm
No, go
sorry,
ahead.
and hosts and a bunch of other things as well, live events as well as, online events and stuff too.
Okay. So this is what you're doing with the live streaming is just an extension of who you are.
Hmm.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Um, Speaking locally and hook it into more of a national thing if you want. What is going on with BLM here? What I don't even know what to ask exactly, but I'd like to get an overview of it.
So I mean, it's hard to really say, honestly, just because it's hard. I know a lot of the protests they're influenced by BLM, but I can't say if they're directly tied to BLM specifically, if you get what I'm saying.
Perfectly.
Um, so I mean, it's really just the energy of it was really more of just the energy of everything that has gone on, over, such a vast amount of time that's kind of built up. And then, the catalyst moment of, the George Floyd killing, really is what set it off. And BLM really, it's an organization that I feel like is maybe getting a lot of the credit or most of the credit, but most honestly, the credit really needs to go just to the people, because a lot of it is just the people have been just standing up and just saying enough is enough. There's a slogan that's being used, Black Lives Matter, but I can't say that it's specifically tied to a certain organization.
Okay. Now this is going to be a dumb question, sort of, except that I don't want to presume anything. Can you give an idea of what the issues in Kenosha in this area are? I know that's going to sound kind of dumb, but
No,
what?
not at all. I mean, there's been tons of grievances people have had, and it's not even necessarily just people of color. Black people, Latino people, things like that. It's even white people are included in it. Michael Bell is a famous situation, a famous case that's gone on here, and he was a white man that, dealt with this a similar situation, albeit it was different, but it's still, a similar situation with police brutality and a life being lost by the hands of police, and then no real justice being found. or being handed out at the end of it. So it's one of those things where we all can kind of everybody could really relate to it in Kenosha, just kind of dealing with their own personal situations. I mean, I've had my own personal situations with the police I've talked about before. And I know people, tons of people that have had situations with police, whether it's just they felt they were treated a certain way or mistreated, um, just scenarios not being right, certain things being said or done to them. So, it's one of those things where people are just looking for more accountability. They feel like the police specifically kind of get away with whatever they want to get away with. There's been multiple deaths, by the hands of the police in Kenosha, and it seems like nothing ever really gets done. People get, slaps on the wrists, but there's really no true justice when you're looking at, the lives that are being lost. So.
Okay. Would you like to give an example of something that's happened to you or someone you know that would kind of like be a good example?
Uh,
I don't need anybody
just
else's name. I'm just.
right. No, I mean, it's just, and I'm not trying to completely crap on the police or anything like that, just because I understand they have a hard job and stuff like that. I don't want to make it seem like I'm completely anti-police or anything like that, because I'm open to, different ideas and things like that. But I mean, it's just things where judgments kind of placed on you. They make assumptions of your character and things like that without knowing you. These assumptions tend to be horrible assumptions for some reason. Just assuming that your character is completely flawed before actually asking you any kind of question, analyzing your personality or anything like that. So, I mean, I've dealt with that on numerous occasions. Uh, you know, time, being accused of all sorts of things, being, like having flushing crack down the toilet while I was having a party because the cops came and things like, just things where, especially being young, growing up in like a multicultural neighborhood, you know, you don't even really think about things like that, and then you have your first encounter with, police that isn't necessarily positive, and it kind of changes your entire outlook on them from there on out. And I try not to hold judgment against the entire police force. I know it was really just one individual that said that to me, and so I don't really judge all of the police for it, but you have enough of those situations that happen to you with different police officers. You start to kind of look at the big picture and ask yourself, like, what really is going on? Why are they acting like this, or why are they getting people specifically that are like this? So.
Okay. So that'd be tied in with one of the complaints I heard it was a Sunday march a while ago where there were 6 new hires for the Kenosha Police Department, all of which were white, I believe.
Mhm.
That would be kind of tied into that then.
Right. And I mean, I'm sure they're more than likely qualified. Where they're from, I'm not sure. Uh, it would be nice to know that at least all of them were from the community, at least if they were going to all be white, because there is a population thing too. Numbers don't lie. Most of the population is white. So you're going to have a higher probability, of course, of probably having white applicants. But again, that doesn't mean there's only white applicants. I'm sure there's plenty of other people of different races and creeds that are probably from the community that want to, look out for the community, that are looking for those positions as well. So we'd like to see it kind of at least be spread out equally among the demographics.
Okay, so black representation among the police department is part of this. I'd heard somebody talking about I can't remember exactly what they call it, kind of like a citizens accountability board or something like that,
Mm.
or a citizens review board, to kind of like as an interface between the community and the police. Have you heard anything about that? Or maybe it just was one person talking?
That I have not heard about. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, to me, it would kind of depend on who was on the board, what their influence is. It's these committees, they just create more bureaucracy, and so it's one of those things where it's like I kind of see where you're coming from, but then that's
Okay.
just giving someone, it's just giving creating new gatekeepers in a way. So I mean,
Mhm.
maybe it will work, maybe it'll just cause more corruption, and so.
So I was at the rally a few Sundays ago. That the one afterwards uh, resulted in some vandalism to a couple of businesses and that.
Mm,
Um, I used to cover stuff in Chicago a lot, not for the Occupy groups, but I was at the NATO 5 or the NATO meeting in Chicago, the big
okay.
march they had there. And one of the things I saw in the structure there is they have the official meeting, and then it would have an endpoint. And the organizers would make a suggestion on what to do afterwards. They'd like have a more public meeting. So it's not actually one big group. It's like a bunch of concerned people and a bunch of people in a group, and there's overlap and there's things like that. So do you end up getting a lot, or do you know of? Because I'm assuming you're not, but I'm not speaking to you as an organizer, but a chronicler. Do you do you see like different levels of participation in this, where there's people who organize and there's people that show up and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like naturally there would have to be, just because not everybody's involved at the same level. Some people are as involved as they can be. Some people will completely dedicate their entire lives to the cause or to the movement. So, and then also people's personality types as well kind of have to be placed in the right area as well, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't have necessarily people that will blow up doing the negotiation and things like that. So it has to be well thought out, well organized, and I feel like the more small groups that kind of team up and kind of work together and have their own kind of not necessarily bylaws, but own sets of principles that are established between them, and that way maybe you could create like a system where all of the, say, just like tribes or whatever, individually cast a vote, and then you bring those votes together and then bring them towards the committee or whatever it may be, um, just to kind of that way to have, because not every, especially you've been in some of the protests and things, you see how there's always going to be different cliques and groups and things like that within all of this. You're not going to get everybody to agree on absolutely everything. So I feel like that would probably be the best way. Of course, it would take a lot of organization. People would have to be dedicated, but then also it gives you kind of an easy route to kind of weed out the small groups that aren't really as dedicated and things like that as well. So
The reason it comes up is that when I was at that Sunday rally, I know that Alderman Kennedy showed up. Do you know him, Anthony Kennedy?
I, I do not know him personally. He did recently add me on Facebook though, but I
He's
have
an
not.
okay guy. But he was there and he addressed the group. And then there was another rally that same week on Tuesday that was more of an official thing, if
Mm,
that makes any sense. And I know the reason I was off camera for a minute trying to fish around for a business card, but it wasn't where I thought I'd put it, of a pastor locally. But there was a Tuesday meeting in the evening. It's like 5 to 6, 6 to 7, something like that. And
mm,
I'm just noticing there are leaders who are stepping forth. Now, Kennedy didn't try to take charge or anything like that, but he would seem to me to be like a focal point. And I know that anytime you get a pastor of a church or that, somebody who steps up officially, they're kind of a focal point. But I also noticed the Tuesday one seemed to be more organic. Is that the word I
mm,
want? It was
mm,
more locally organized by people who saw a need.
mm.
Um, I've also noticed there's been I want to say there are Saturday afternoon marches that start up at the Pick and Save on 18th and work their way down to, I think it is Lincoln Park on 22nd.
Mm.
Am I about right on that?
Yeah,
Okay. Have you been to those?
I've been to a couple of them. Yeah.
What's your general what's your general experience of these marches?
I mean, there's a lot of energy, a lot of passion. People, I mean, they definitely believe what they are, out there protesting about. For the most part, everybody seems incredibly friendly. Um, there is some small pockets that may be not to say more radical, but maybe more abrasive when it comes to dealing with the police. But
Mhm.
for the most part, everybody generally is friendly. They're out there trying to help get everybody organized. There's people out there trying to like help get people registered to vote and things like that. People out there, even like just small things like there's small groups of people that'll even like go out there and like light sage and like pass around like rose quartz and stuff like that, just trying to keep everybody's energy and vibrations positive and stuff. So for the most part, it's overall been really, really positive.
Is there a push or a focus on something? Now you mentioned the elections and maybe voter registration and that I'm assuming would be going on too. Is there any push or focus on where to go, where the marches will take people? I don't know if that makes any sense. Attempting to get voters, that would be one push. But anything else that's going on? Any other focus?
So they're really, from what I've noticed, they're really zeroing in on this on the whole defund the police movement in a way. Um, and exactly how they want to go about doing that. I mean, you can ask different people and get different answers. There's no real specific thing, but a lot of the push is kind of going in that direction. um and that again kind of goes with the how the movement is kind of, it's organic in a way, but it's also kind of influenced by the national movement. So the direction of the national movement is naturally kind of where everything is going. Um, be there not really being real leadership in a way. Not to say that there's not real leadership, but there's not really, just personally, in my opinion, there's really not anyone you can point to in a way to say, hey, this is the person that is leading everything that is going on. A lot of it is groups of young people, a lot of young people seeing what's going on nationally, following what's going on online, different trends and things like that, things that end up getting high up there with the hashtags and stuff like that, that really get seen, really get highlighted. That's really getting in everyone's consciousness, in their subconscious, and getting them out there to do what they're doing. So
What do you think is the benefit of not being of it being organic and not like leader focused? I may be saying that wrong. And what are the weak parts of that?
so the benefit is, in my opinion, it at least shows that, when it comes down to it, us as a nation will actually stand up, and we'll actually get out there and we'll let our voices be heard. For a long time, it was, especially me being a millennial, some of the other generations kind of looking down at us saying, oh, like, you guys don't do anything, you're all talk, all of this, all of that stuff. It's kind of cool to see people my age kind of in a way stepping up, and then the generations under uh, uh, after us as well, kind of stepping up, taking the initiative, being real active, and really just trying to show that they really want to make a change. Because for the longest time, activism has kind of been one of these things where it's like, you go out there, you protest, you march, but then afterwards, really nothing ever really changes. The regimes get stronger. The oppression gets deeper in a way. So now I feel like this is the actual movement where we're looking at about a month or so, coming up on a month. And people are still getting out there. There's still things going on, if not every day, every weekend, almost every day somewhere in the nation. So I feel like this thing it's real. It's not going to stop until there's actual real change. Hopefully things don't get worse. Hopefully we can all kind of just decide like, hey, we see that this isn't going to stop. Let's actually make the necessary changes that we have to do to make things go good from here on out. But we'll see how things go. You never know, you know?
Okay. Um, we've got about 10 minutes left, I think. It hasn't given me a warning yet, but because these things are limited, I keep an eye on the time.
Mm.
What would you have to add or say in addition to the things I've asked? Because I'm counting on myself as not hitting a lot of important points because I don't know the local scene a lot. I've been to a couple things, but that's it.
Okay. What I would say is everybody just, keep on going out there, keep on standing up for what you believe in, but also keep on looking at information, receiving new information, reevaluating the facts that you think you have, just so you know that you're actually making a sound decision. But then also keeping your energy high, not taking no for an answer, and continuing to let your voices be heard. As you can see, especially like, and this is kind of one of those subjects that kind of has people teeter left and right, but this is another thing that has people looking at the police locally, is the whole situation with Crystal Kaiser. um you know there's been people backing her really, really hard. I went to uh an event that they had set up for uh her bond hearing. That was a couple weeks ago, where unfortunately she wasn't able to get bond, but recently she was able to get bonded out. So now she's able to be bonded out. They're trying to help her out to try to get everything together to maybe help her out with her case. But it's just one of those situations where you look at everything that's gone on in that situation, and it makes you kind of look at the police, where it's like, so like, you understand exactly, like, you see what happened though, right? But now you're trying to demonize her like she is the worst person in the world, when she's been under so many different, like, such high levels of abuse and psychological mistreatment, where it's one of those things where it's like, it's unbelievable what they're trying to get her with. Like, it's understandable that she did commit a crime. There was a life that was lost, but we have to look at the full spectrum situation. And just, I don't know, not to get all weird or anything, but just looking at the case and how the timeline of events in the case, everything is just, I talked to tons of people about it, and they're just like, the whole thing just is kind of really weird, and the police and how they're handling the entire situation is kind of weird. So situations like that, as they continue to happen, and more things like this continue to happen, as we see more and more people across the nation, it seems like almost every day or every other day there seems to be someone else that is dying by the hands of police, which you would think it would die down, which is, so people just need to stay positive, understand that things are really, really messy, and try to just decompress every once in a while as well. So you're not just looking at all of this, negativity, looking at all of this death, honestly, online, that's just building up inside of you, which is just going to cause you to lash out. Uh, Things got really bad for a little bit, but we got past that, and we don't need to go back into the dark times that we were in. We need to just keep on moving forward so we can get the real change. Because if things get really, really messy, that's just exactly what the people would say the oppressor would want you to do, because then they have
Yeah.
justification to come back with full force against you. So we just have to be smart about everything. If we want to make real change, we have to just keep on being positive, keep on pressing forward, and not taking no for an answer. And eventually we'll get to where we need to be, but we have to work together, and we can't just demonize people without having conversations with them as well, because you don't know what anybody believes until you actually talk to them.
Now I want to step back for just a moment. We got a couple minutes left. Chris, could you just give a quick overview of her case? Because this is going to be archived. So people in, let's say, 25 years aren't going to know what criminal case with this young lady you were talking about?
Yes, so it's the case of Crystal Kaiser. Um, just to kind of summarize it, so so Crystal Kaiser is a young lady, underage lady that allegedly was into prostitution. Allegedly, some say she was into prostitution, but others are alleging that the victim in her case was the person that was allegedly her pimp or was prostituting her out.
Trafficking her.
Uh, yeah, trafficking her as well. And then he had also been apprehended by the police for some reason. They had found uh, I believe it was manufactured child pornography on his computer and things like this. Somehow he was able to bond out with all of this. And while he was bonded out, before he could go to trial, Crystal Kaiser came in, sought justice for herself, and killed him in his home and lit the home on fire. Now, we could say this is kind of extreme. I can understand someone saying, thinking it is extreme. In a way, I feel it's extreme as well. But also, I have never been trafficked, especially not as a child. And in some of the horrific things that have more than likely went on could damage anyone forever. So it's one of those things where you have to kind of look at the full spectrum of the case, look at the individual that she was dealing with. In a way, people say this is a self-defense thing. Other people are saying this is, first degree murder. I feel like it's probably somewhere maybe in the middle, maybe possibly, to be fair. But if you're being honest and looking at all the facts, a young woman that is underage, that was being trafficked, more than likely, I mean, and this is just me speculating, more than likely felt that he was going to get off based on the fact that he was found with all of this manufactured child pornography. His cell phone, they had more than likely evidence of him doing trafficking, but yet was still able to bond out. But after she commits, after she seeks justice for herself, she gets apprehended, and she can't even bond out. She's looking at $1 million to get out, or whatever. So now she's out, though. They got that reduced, which is good, and things are looking up. But that's because of the pressure from the people. So we have to just keep on applying that pressure, letting them know that we see what's going on. Pedophilia is one of those things that is running rampant, especially in this area, and it has to be highlighted. We can't allow things like this to be swept under the rug. I'm not sure if you heard about what happened in Milwaukee just, I believe, yesterday or the other day, the entire situation where, people were kidnapped and the police were doing nothing, and they were in the house and there was evidence of there was trafficking going on and the cops weren't doing anything. It's really weird what's going on kind of with all of this stuff in the police department. We're not trying to point any fingers at anybody. We just want to make sure this stuff doesn't happen. As long as they can help out to make sure it's not happening, and there doesn't seem like they're trying to cover people's backs when it's going on, then, things will be better.
Okay, thank you very much. Are you up for another interview at a later date?
Yeah, I'm down for that. I could do that.
Okay. And do you have any recommendations of other people I should talk to for the archives? I'm going to get a hold of that one minister, and if I can find that young lady who organized, the two young ladies who organized the event, I'm going to go with them too. But
yeah, I would say that. And then I would say Isaac Wallner has been setting up a lot of the events as well. So I would say contact him as well. And then also he may have some of the contact info for some of the people that you're looking for as well. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Then unless there's anything else you want to bring up right now, which is cool.
No, I think that should be good for now.
All right.